Welcome to Daily Devotions for Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Today's verse is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 15. This follows the recommendation in verses 13 and 14, the command to submit to governing authorities, whether emperors or governors, who punish evil and reward the good. And then verse 15 gives some of the rationale for that stance, for fulfilling that command. It says this: "For it is God's will that by doing good you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people." It is God's will that you should, by doing good, silence the foolish talk of ignorant people. So we saw yesterday how there's a testimony element of doing good. And it is akin to Jesus' words in the Sermon on the Mount about letting your light shine before men, they might see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Today we see that there's a kind of another element of this, that it puts to rest a kind of slanderous or accusatory talk that could come against Christians, that would view them in the sense that they are rebellious or turning away from society, or in some way as aliens and strangers against society. Christians are not against society. They are in society for the good of society. They are a leaven, a positive influence. That's what we are to be, not a totally withdrawn group. We live in the world, even though we seek to be not like the world, but also engaged in living in a way that is faithful to God. So this way of living, which includes the idea of submitting to governing authorities, is one way that we as believers demonstrate faithfulness to God, and that tends to lessen the slanderous criticism, or the false criticism that we might face as believers. And there's some thinking here to be done, some qualification in the sense of the things we face. This is in the Bible. You will sometimes suffer accusation for doing what is right. You sometimes face misunderstanding or accusation for proclaiming something that is out of step with cultural accepted norms. So this is not the whole story, but chapter 2 verse 15 is an important part of the story. We have a light shining, witnessing element here, that doing good has a way of diffusing volatility and bringing understanding. That kind of accusatory back and forth kind of an approach where people are at battle with us over our lives is not generally going to be very helpful for the spread of the gospel. It obscures the gospel when people can highlight certain elements of our lives, or highlight hypocrisy, or highlight our belligerent attitude. That can detract from the spread of the gospel. So we weigh these things out, walk these things out, seek to walk wisely, seek to walk with discernment. But we remember from 1 Peter 2:15 that there is a power in doing what is good, and that God is honored, and that it is God's will, which is a strong statement in Scripture. That statement, "it is God's will," is not made many times in Scripture. There are just a handful of times where a passage says it is God's will, and that brings a sense of weightiness to these words. And so this issue of how we respond to authority is an important issue, and we're going to see in the verses that follow that it will continue to be an important issue in this book and in the Bible. So, and continue to think on these things. The way this is in the Scriptures and the way it's being presented here is very out of touch with the world we live in now. Sometimes even in the Christian world, but certainly in the non-Christian world. And so we need to think deeply on these issues. and continue to seek to be discerning. So thanks for watching today. I hope you have a good day.